Hi, I'm photographer Kerron Riley, and this is my OMG interview. Right now, I'm based in Amsterdam. I'm here for the Commonwealth, which was amazing. Back in Amsterdam, I have a studio which I do fashion and lifestyle photography. Photography for me started back in high school. I walked into the wrong class my 10th year of high school. I grew up in Maryland, which is right outside of Washington, D.C. And I was in that classroom, that photography class, for about 2 weeks before my teacher realized I don't belong there. But anyway, I liked the class so much that he allowed me to come in sitting on the class in my lunch breaks, and that's how I grew from there. And it's funny because when you're growing up in Maryland back then, I guess you could say all the races and all the ethnicity, whether you're Latin, where you're Asian, where you're white, everybody kind of kept to their own groups back then. And so when I stepped into the wrong classroom and I looked around and none of my friends was there, I wanted to be out of there, but I ended up staying for the short amount of time, and I loved photography from there. Back then it was film. High school back then was different. All the ethnicities kind of hanged out with each other. The black kids hanged out with the black kids, the Latino kids hanged out with Latino kids, and the white. So there was not so much integration. People just hang out with who lived in their neighborhoods and where they were from. So when I when I went to the wrong classroom in 10th grade, I realized none of my friends was here. And by that time, I assumed it was my class, and I sat there for the first hour of that class, and I remember the teacher coming out and giving me a camera, and I was like, what is this, And after about 4 or 5 hours, and 4 or 5 hours of going to that class for about a week, I realized I really loved photography, and it was really cool. The interesting thing about photography back then, I always say photography allows you to interact and meet people and open doors. And that's just what it did. I remember different kids, walking around the school with my camera, and different kids just coming out to me and reaching out to me and asking me to take their pictures or take their portraits. And that was different, and that was all because of a camera in my hand. So I would say photography started for me in high school back then, and that was the beginning of me even considering photography as an option as a professional. I I was born in Trinidad. My parents at the time was living in South, which Princestown. But we migrated, I believe I was about 9, and I had never came back to Trinidad until I was about almost 28 years after, I believe so. I was born and raised born in Trinidad, but I migrated when I was 9 years old to Maryland, USA, and I haven't been back. I was away for about more than 20 years. So I basically grew most of my life, adult life, and high school, going to high school in the US. So when I did choose to come to Trinidad about 9 years ago, I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. I knew no one except close family, and it was starting from scratch. It was just a vacation. I just came for vacation, and I ended up liking it a lot, and that's all she wrote. First, I like traveling. I enjoy traveling. Photography, one thing about photography, you have the opportunity to travel. It's all up to you where you want to go. You just have to buy your ticket and go. I had the opportunity to work for a studio in Poland, which I took, and that was interesting because I was in a town called Morag or Ostroda, which is you're the only black person for miles and miles and miles. And that was interesting. I learned a lot. Poland is a huge country, brand new, developed, as in coming out from old Russia, from old communists. So it's some places is modern and some places times just stopped, and that was interesting working there. What was nice about Poland was that you were the celebrity because most people have never really physically seen a black person with their eyes before. And it was interesting interacting with people who were just excited to be in your presence and like touch your hair or ask you questions and stuff like that. That was fun. That was interesting. And I was there for a year and a half, and then the opportunity to move to Amsterdam came. And Amsterdam has always been my favorite city. It's a beautiful city. It's about 1 million people live in Amsterdam. And I would say most of the people that live there are creatives. Whether you're a photographer, whether you're a designer, whether you're an illustrator, whether you're an artist, whether you're a builder, sculpture, whatever, Amsterdam is a place where if you want to grow or reach out to other people in your field or in your community as an artist, it's perfect. So I took the opportunity to move to Amsterdam, and I have a studio there for the last 3 years, and it's been doing pretty good. You know, that's actually very sad, because we have carnival, we have culture, and I don't want to say they don't, but our culture in Trinidad here is very rich in color, in music, and they don't have that. Like, for instance, when I was in Amsterdam, I was, you know, I consider myself a fashion lifestyle photographer. So I want to do fashion. But there's tons of fashion photographers in Amsterdam, lots of them. You name it, they're there. The only way I got in my foot in the door was because I was doing carnival exhibits of my photography from Trinidad, and people used to come and see that. They used to love to see the colors and the costumes. And the way I shot carnival in Trinidad, I never shot the pretty mask or the pretty girls posing and stuff like that. I always shot, my best thing was to photograph them about 3 o'clock when they were all drunk and they don't care about their costumes and their feathers, and they just let you take their pictures. And I did portraits. I did whining faces. I did faces like, you know, when when the feathers are all wet and they don't care. And I took those kind of pictures, and they loved it. A lot of stuff from Pyramid, from the Blue Devils, from the kids carnival, and they saw that stuff, and they have never seen something so raw before. Everybody talks about Brazil carnival, and Brazil carnival is pretty, but nobody talks about like real, what it's really like to be underground. And I displayed that in my photography and my exhibits, and they loved it. And they accepted me from that. Then they said to me, "Hey Kerron, you know, I have this designer friend, she has a new collection, maybe you could shoot that." And boom, I was in. And I didn't have to fight up with everybody else for fashion work. The fashion work was coming to me now. And if it wasn't for the carnival and the culture of Trinidad photography that I used to do here, I probably wouldn't have made it there as I know. It would have been a lot harder, but it worked out for me. Everybody has something to offer. I like to think everybody could take a good picture. I don't like to believe you can't take a good picture of somebody. I think when somebody don't like their picture, it's not their fault, it's a photographer's fault. So if there's a picture of a person that I took and they don't like that picture, I fail that person. Because I like to think as a photographer, you just gotta bring out the story in everybody. And if you take your time and you take your time and you watch that person, you could see something, the beauty or the thing that can make that person have a picture that they like about themselves. I think that's very important. In traveling around the world, there's nothing like a person being satisfied with a photo that you took of them, whether they're self-conscious about themselves, but if you take a picture of somebody and they really love it, it shows. I like that feeling when somebody sees something and they're like, "Wow, that's me." I like that. That's actually very interesting, because in Amsterdam, I have a photographer club that I helped create that's called Is Everybody a Photographer? And what we do, we invite professional photographers and one amateur or non-professional photographer to have 5 minutes to display their photography, what they're working on. And at the end of the 5 minutes display of their work, they take questions, and then we ask them the question, is everybody a photographer? And it's always interesting to hear what other people have to say. And my side of it, I think everybody is a photographer. The only difference is some people do it for money as a living, and some people do it because the technology has made it easy for them to play with it. So I would say everybody is a photographer, because I've seen some work from people who are not photographers, and it's very good, you know, amazing stuff. And I've seen work from professionals that I know some amateur guys could probably do just as good. It all depends on the time you want to put in it. So I think everybody is a photographer. A great photograph to me is when I look at a picture and I could see all that is happening around, whether it's a portrait of a person, whether their eyes are sad, whether they they take pride in their makeup. You know, some people do their eyes, and you know, you could tell a lot from a picture. I think a great picture is what tells a story, whether it's a portrait of a person or if it's a picture of a landscape. If I could see the hills over there and see there's a house on the bottom, if I could just look at a picture for a while and tell a story what's happening, it's a great picture. You know, when I was here in Trinidad with photography, there was a lot of event photographers. And I was like, man, there's so many of them, you know? But when I went to Europe, I grew an appreciation for our event photographers. Like, I personally think the best event photographers in the world is from Trinidad. Because Trinidad has so many events that happens year round. And so they get more experience. When I went to Europe and I went to many concerts and festivals, and I looked at event photographers, they were not even half as good as what I know the people who are here. I think if I was to advise local photographers, is not to try and be European or American style of photography, or European photographer or American photographer. I think the Caribbean is so rich with what they have here that they should, you know, it's that funny thing because you grew up here, you don't see what's around you. For instance, when I first came to Trinidad and I was at one of my mom's house in South and I looked outside, I saw a chicken trying to cross the road. And I was like, whoa, a chicken trying to cross the road. I remember going outside, I set my camera and tripod on the ground and I was shooting that chicken, waiting to time the cars going by to cross the road. And my mom looked at me like, what is wrong with my son? What are you doing? I was like, it's a chicken trying to cross the road. She did not see that as something interesting. And I think that's because it's just a stupid chicken trying to cross the road. But for a lot of people in different countries in the US and Europe, that is amazing. That is the environment where the old house in the background across the street, the guy walking by looking like he wants to kick the chicken, the cars racing by. That's a story. That's beauty. And I think photographers here has to be aware, they have to remind themselves that this is where they're from and the things around them are beautiful. And even though you see it every day, you have to find some way of making yourself appreciate what it is. Because if you market what's around you here, you will be respected and acknowledged as a photographer. Like I said, if it wasn't for carnival photography that I used to do for fun and when I was here, I would have never make it as fast as I did in Europe as a photographer. And I have done TV shows, I have done radio shows, I've been on morning shows, I've been in the newspapers and radio, and it was all because of my photography with Carnival, and that was a stepping stone to get in the door. So I advise people to look around them here, take pictures of people around, take pictures of the people around you, take pictures of the stories around you, and you will see how fast you grow as a photographer. As a photographer now, I have photographed nearly every assignment that I used to grow up wishing I could do. I've photographed world leaders, I've photographed stars, I've photographed models, fashion models, Vogue models. I have at least had the opportunity to done most of it. And the only thing I'm lacking from my resume is underwater pictures because I cannot swim. But as a photographer now, I'm older, I think the only thing I look forward to is being, because my pictures tell stories and I pay attention to details around. I want when somebody who don't understand photography leave their house and they look across the street and they say to themselves, you know what? Kerron Riley would take a picture of that. You know what? That's a scene Kerron Riley would photograph. I had a friend who I met and he follows me on Instagram and he said, he's a chicken farmer. And he said to me, boy, the other day I saw a scene by my farm and I tell myself, you would like that. And just the appreciation of him acknowledging the beauty that's around him and that I would appreciate and want to photograph it, I think that's more satisfaction for me than anything else. And so as a photographer, getting older, I want people to see things around them and remember me that that's something I would have taken a picture of, what I would have been interested in photographing. That's important. Well, new projects I'm working on. I'm doing more video now. I'm playing with video. My idol was Herb Ritz. He was a famous fashion photographer. And I remember in following his documentaries and stuff like that, Madonna used to ask him to do video for her, and he's like, I don't know about video, I'm a photographer. And he started doing it because of her, and his stuff, even though it's video, it's shot like a photographer eye. So I always been intrigued by that, so I started doing video. So I've been hanging out with all my friends who do video and learning from them, and I'm hoping to produce some video stuff here in the Caribbean. I'm working with my friend Cassia. We're working on a travel kind of documentary style. It's called Kerron Riley. I'm working with Hack White Clan right now, Jeremy Taichu. Most people know him for fitness and training. We're working on a project around that too. And I'm also working with Nile Royal. We're working on another one. I don't want to say yet, but I'm having fun with all these projects, and these are what I'm working on right now. As for fashion and stuff back home, it's off season now, so I probably have done 2 years of work on standby, because it's funny, in Amsterdam, in wintertime we shoot summer, and summertime we shoot wintertime. So everything I shoot for this year is scheduled to release next year. So I took the space in between to spend more time in the Caribbean, and I'm just looking forward to be here and photographing anything. Growing up in Maryland is like the Washington DC area. So I remember when I've always worked for House of Congress or do stuff around the White House. So at that time it was Bill Clinton and we had President Bush. And so I was working in that field, in that area of politics. And I remember when I came to Trinidad and President Obama became the first black president, I was like, damn it, I missed out on that, because for sure I would have been there doing work to photograph him. And then about a month after he became in office, I heard he was coming to Trinidad, and somebody approached me to do the photography for that. So that was really cool. It's like Obama came to me. So that was an oh my God moment for me. It was funny because David Wares, Colin Williams, and myself posing in front of the beast. That was fun. The beast, the president limo. Yeah, because our security clearance was okay, we could go and post pictures in front of it, and that was cool. A couple months ago, I would never say I would have been doing that in front of the beast in the Caribbean, in Trinidad. So that was my oh my God moment. So one of the things I'm working with while I'm here in Trinidad and Tobago, in Tobago, I'm doing a lot of work for Villa Bean, which is amazing, beautiful hotel resort in Tobago. So I've been doing a lot of photography for them and help to bring awareness. It won Playboy and Forbes magazine Villa of the Year, I think for 2015. And it's just a beautiful place. So I've been doing a lot of work there, a lot of fashion work for Leve Tobago. Just look out for stuff coming from that. So that's one of my projects. So I've been spending a lot of time in Tobago also. I want to thank OMG Magazine for having me. This has been 5 years in the making. I was looking forward to seeing myself here, and I was excited when I got called up. I just want to say thanks to the viewers. You can always find me, my photography on Instagram. It's Kerron Riley. If you look up Kerron Riley, you'll find me. Whether it's Facebook, you can Google me. I think the only other Kerron Riley is a track and field star in Florida. The other Kerron Riley will be me. Just check out my photography, whether you like it or not. You can always give me back feedback. I'm always willing to hear what people have to say. And also, if you're interested in working with me, whether it's collaboration or hire me to do work, no matter what it is, just give me a call. If it seeks my interest, I will do it, or I'll work with you. Okay? And that's it.